I just want to open up, and I know all of us are here to talk about the game, and there's plenty to talk about. But got to be honest with you. It's been on my heart. The last couple weeks. Raising 3 kids. Those that know me know that I try and stay off social media and stay as present as I possibly can with our football team and my family. But being a dad over the last 5 years, I think we could all admit there's some things going on in our world that sometimes we make you kind of question humanity a little bit. And I want to be really clear. This isn't a political statement. Anyone that knows me knows that I have no political affiliations or alliances. To me, it's, show me someone that's truly there to serve the people, then they got my vote. But political rhetoric does not resonate with me. But the thing that I just do want to share that I think is something that's just on my heart, it probably comes from my personal journey, is, if there's people out there that are hurt, they're broken, they're searching, I know my life made a radical transformation when I decided to commit my life to Jesus Christ. And, I just, in a world that's kind of crazy right now, I'm going to keep focusing on this football team. I'm going to keep focusing on my family. And I'm prayerful that in a world that feels more and more divided every day, that we have opportunities specifically around the game of football, things that I can control, to come together. But that being said, disappointed with the result today. It's one of those things that it would be really. I first want to acknowledge Oregon. We got our butts kicked by a really good football team. We got our butts kicked, and Oregon is, yes, a very good football team. Ultimately, we set out this week with a mission to find a way to beat Oregon. We failed in that mission. I want our guys to keep their heads up. I want them to stay the course and be confident that there's bright things ahead for this football team. But also, we need to acknowledge and certainly not be satisfied with, hey, we played really hard. Yeah, we played hard, but we didn't execute at a high level. We need to do a better job as a coaching staff, starting with me, of identifying truly who this football team is and putting our team in situations to get a game like this to the fourth quarter to be within striking distance. You can point out to a few plays in the first half that could have kept it close. To me, that's a loser's mentality. Oh, if we change these 5 plays, well, we can't change those 5 plays. But ultimately, we went in the game saying we need to win the rushing battle. We said we need to win the turnover battle and we need to create an edge on special teams. If you look at the stat line, we won the rushing battle. But ultimately, we didn't win until that explosive play by Deshaun Reeder. We had opportunities to win the rushing battle. Got to limit that explosive play, the first play for our defense in the third quarter. We didn't win the turnover battle. You can't beat teams like Oregon when you don't win the turnover battle. You're not going to give yourself a shot. On special teams, we did give ourselves an edge, in my opinion. Joe Hyman's return, I thought our cover units did a good job. But there's an opportunity for us to go back and evaluate and say, who are we as a football team and as a coaching staff? How do we put this team in position to do it the Wildcat way? We've won a lot of games over the course of the time here at Northwestern. Getting into the fourth quarter and finding ways to win in the fourth quarter. We didn't give ourselves a chance to do that today. Opportunity for all of us to learn and grow. We got our butts kicked by a really good football team. I still believe we have a good football team in that locker room that has a lot of bright things ahead. Opportunity for us to get to a bye week, hopefully get some guys healthy, and have a great week and a half of prep for UCLA.
Charlie, Coach, what did you make of the 40-yard completion to Drew Wagner? And secondly, how do you think the offense can kind of just get more jump plays like that?
Ultimately, ball was a little bit underthrown, but that's the thing is, every ball is not going to be perfect. In those situations, Preston has to trust that his wide receivers are going to outcompete a DB for the ball, and that's what Drew Wagner did. To be honest with you, I think we got to be aware of chasing explosive plays. Like if you look at our sequencing, we're driving. I think it was that first drive, and we try and chunk off an explosive play with a trick play. Well, the way we're running the ball, a first down that, could have been led to 2nd and 5 ultimately led to a 2nd and 10, and now we're kind of out of sequence. That 3rd and 1, first drive of the second half, we get it to 3rd and 1, and I understand the play call from Zach from a standpoint of, hey, this is an opportunity, tight coverage to take a shot and score a touchdown. I understand all those things, but the way that we were running the ball and reevaluate, maybe it's better just to run the ball and go pick up a first down. We take a play action shot, it turns into sack, it turns into 4th and 10 field spacing, where we're on the field in the field zone and the points were down, we end up going for it on 4th and 10. Is that a great way to start off, and put our defense maybe in the not best spot? Do we need to find explosive plays? We do. I believe Griffin had one today. Drew had one today. But those explosive that started to show up were, Deshaun. It's just like executing our I don't want to say routine, but our routine offense. And it's something that we have to evaluate, because the way that we're operating on offense right now, if we stay ahead of the chains and our sequencing's right, we're moving the ball. Whether you look back at Tulane or you look at, late first quarter, second quarter against Western Illinois, or you look at Oregon today, like where we've put ourselves in bad spots and sputtered out is we get off that sequencing and we got 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11. It's something that we're going to have to evaluate.
Thank you. So today you guys went for it on 4th down 4 times. In the last 2 weeks combined, it was 3. Was that part of the play calling, or was it just something you guys saw in game, and what went into those decisions?
Part of the plan beyond the 3 bullet points I mentioned earlier, like we understood, number one, if we want to score points on offense, I as a head coach have to get over some of maybe my brain that's wired like a defensive coach, right? And I think I've grown in that area. So some of it's like just general thought process as a program, but specifically for Oregon, we knew that we'd have to find a way to steal a couple possessions. And like, how can you do that? It's 4th down conversions. And I believe on the first series, we had a 4th down pickup. Yeah. And like that 4th down's, important. We knew Oregon had the ability and would pass the 50, go for it on 4th down. Well, if we get a 4th down stop, that's as good as a turnover. We knew that we were going to have to create some possessions by being aggressive and then executing on defense. To answer your question directly, it was definitely part of the thought process of how do we position ourselves to beat a team that's the caliber of Oregon.
Yeah, Coach, you talked about running the ball, and you guys were able to do that with a lot of success. 4.8 yards per carry when you ran it on first down, 6.2 yards a carry. How helpful is it for you guys as a staff to know against a team that's the caliber of Oregon, the run game still was clicking that well?
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and pat ourselves on the back, but at the same time, that's a really good defense and a really good defensive line. And again, not taking any shots at Oregon, but I thought we did a good job of consistently putting our backs in positions to carry the football. And, Deshaun late in the game against, whether they had their starters or not, aside from that carry, and shout out to Deshaun, stayed ready, got his opportunity and executed. Great job, young man. But, even leading up to that, there was never a point where I didn't feel like we weren't able to establish the line of scrimmage. If there was one disappointing, juncture of in today's game, it was the 3rd and 1 that led to a 4th and 1 that led to a stop on 4th and 1, and our defense had to, start that series. I think it was inside the 10.
Hey, Coach, how do you assess Preston Stone's performance today, with the ball placement, turnovers? What did you think?
Yeah, we can't turn the ball over, and the ball can't be on the ground. Did he make some nice throws even on the 4th and 10? That Ricky's got a chance to make that play. I think you can evaluate some plays and say, you know what, kid, good job. And you can look at some plays like, man, this can't happen. That's 3 weeks in a row that the ball, has been on the ground. It can't happen. We can't turn the ball over. Against a team of the caliber of Oregon. It's not part of the equation for us to win in football games. So I think that there's some things to acknowledge in terms of okay, nice job, kid, well done. And there's some stuff that it has to get fixed.
Couple more, Gavin.
Coach, you talked about a lot of it being Zach Lujan's idea maybe to go for it on 4th down and to be aggressive and that kind of stuff. What is that play calling process specifically like? Is he 100% of the decision maker, or how much of this goes into whether you're going for it on certain scenarios?
I'm the decision maker on all that. Now I'm getting that information to Zach early on in that sequencing of hey, you got 4 downs in this range. If we get this to X, fourth and X amount, you got to go. And that puts him in a position to sequence out his play calling throughout those 4 plays. But that's, ultimately, like, part of the plan was certainly not to go for it on 4th and 1 on the -10. But it was like, you know what? If we're going to give ourselves one last chance in this football game, it's 4th and 1. Let's put on the O-line. Let's go. That's my decision. Where I've grown is my communication with Zach in game has been much more proactive, which comes down to a lot of hard work that we put in this offseason, sitting down with analytics and talking as a staff on how we could position ourselves for that.
So on that 3rd and 1, it's, you kind of give the guidelines of this is what we're looking for here, and then he ultimately calls the play on 3rd down. That's the pass.
Yes. Yeah. That third, you're referring to the 3rd and 1 sequencing that led to 4th and 10 after the sack.
Yes.
Coming back to an earlier question in terms of creating explosives, one area where we thought we'd have a very good idea exactly what they were in defensively and could take an attempt at a chunk shot. That is something Zach and I talked about this week. He told me, like, on 3rd and 1, Dave, there's going to be an opportunity for a chunk. We'll take it if, in 4 down territory. If it turns into 4th and 1, we'll pick up on 4th and 1. I said, Zach, yeah, sounds good. The things that we're seeing on tape align with that. In hindsight, that's an opportunity for us to go back and reevaluate, like, okay, the way that we're operating on offense, are we better off just on 3rd and 1 saying, you know what, we're going to run the football and or move the pocket, and not put ourselves in a position for a potential negative play.
Last question, Yang.
Coach, Robert Fitzgerald led all players across both teams with 10 tackles today. This is his 2nd game this season with double-digit tackles after not doing that previously in his career. How can you speak to his improvement and his progression throughout his career?
Really impressive. He's instinctual. He's a throwback. He finds a way to practice every single day. Because he finds a way to practice every single day, he continues to improve. I was fortunate to coach some really good boundary safeties in my time at North Dakota State. Fitz is just another guy that I appreciate his knack for the game, his physicality. He is performing at a high level right now, and I'll also acknowledge, I look forward to games where our safeties, aren't racking up that many tackles as well. 10 tackles for a safety, I think we can all argue is too much for a safety.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
On your left, Joe Himon. On your right, Mac Uihlein. We'll go right into questions for Joe and Mac. And if you have a question, go ahead and direct your question to either Joe or Mac. Go ahead.
This is for Joe. So, first game without Cam Porter in the lineup this season. How do you think you and Caleb in the backfield, and what was it like not having Cam out there on the field?
Not having Cam, that's our guy. That's someone who we look up to. So that was kind of a devastating loss. But at the end of the day, it's next man up. And I think me, Caleb, and Deshaun, we stepped up when our number was called. I trust in my O-line. I trust in the guys, blocking out there for me. And, we can see that we can move the ball on anybody in the country. So we just got to keep going, keep pressing the little details, and, just get back to work.
Brendan.
Mac, you had a big interception there in the 3rd quarter. I believe it was inside the 20 on a deep shot from Oregon. What were you seeing on that play, and what were you seeing on tape in the week leading up to this that had you able to read that play and make a play on the ball?
Yeah, I'm not really concerned with the individual play. I just happen to do my job on that play, but we got to be better as a defense. And it starts with me being better and leading the linebacker room and then leading the defense. So we got to be better on defense there.
Charlie. Mac, a lot of snaps for John Stevens today, just as a true freshman in his first Big Ten game. What have you seen out of him in practice, and what kind of player he really is?
Yeah, he's been practicing hard since training camp. We do a good job of kind of including the freshmen in a lot of important and meaningful reps. And he's preparing like all the starters have been preparing up until this point. So he was ready to go in, and yeah, he's done a good job.
Brendan.
Joe, there was that big touchdown run to close the game basically from Deshaun Reeder in the 4th quarter. What have you guys been seeing from him and his development, and how big is that for the running back room to have one of the young guys being able to step up in a game like this?
Deshaun, I'm very proud of him. He just comes to work every day, no matter what, whether that's in special teams, whether that's in the offense. And I think throughout the rest of the season, his role will continue to grow. But, we just have to keep growing as a room, as a whole, keep grinding every day and just trusting the process.
Here's
So
So obviously, like, not the result y'all wanted, but that Deshaun touchdown had to feel good as a team to boost a little bit of morale. How do you bottle that feeling of a guy getting his first touchdown going into the bye week instead of just bottling that feeling and that negativity that might come from a loss like this?
I mean, obviously he did a good job on that touchdown. We obviously didn't get the result that we wanted, and our mission was to beat Oregon, and we did not accomplish that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, bro, we just got to get back to work. Like, there's nothing else that we can do but just get back to work and keep honing in on the details that we need to do, whether that's from offense, defense, or special teams.
Hey, Mac, how did you think overall the defense played today? You held Oregon to like around 200 yards and 20 points, fewer than they normally get. You know, what did you think of the defense today?
I think we didn't play well enough, specifically in the linebacker room and starting with me to win the game. And if we were all on the same page, all doing our jobs, I think it would have been a better outcome for us. But we got our ass kicked at the end of the day, and we got to be better on defense. So it starts with me.
Last one, Charlie.
This is for Joe. So special teams, you guys, it seemed like you guys kind of outperformed Oregon in that aspect. So what do you see from those guys, and how do you contribute to continuing to have success in the special teams game?
Special teams, you know, we try to have that as our edge of our team. That's something that we, you know, need to be great at, just to give us an extra little push. And I think we just, you know, we come to work every day, and I try to maximize on every opportunity that I get. So I just try to stay ready with that and just trust the people in front of me that they'll do their job and I'm gonna do my job. So, but at the end of the day, we just got to keep working and keep pressing.
All right, thanks, guys.